wealthy sons that were trying to give their mother the perfect Mother's Day gift. And it was a bit of a competition. So the first son, who was very wealthy, gave her a home. Built her a large home, a very large home. Presented it to his mother on Mother's Day. My sons are here. Please listen and take notes. The second son said, I won't be outdone. I'm going to give her a Mercedes. Yes. I have two sons, just saying. He said, this will be a great present. I'll be the new favorite. He presented it to her on Mother's Day. The third son began to worry. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to have to get creative to win this battle. He came up with this. He found 10 monks that had taken 12 years to train a parrot that could recite the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. All you had to do was give them the verse, the chapter and verse. And this parrot could quote the verse. His mother was getting older, had lost her eyesight, was losing her eyesight, and he thought, this is the gift to give Mom. Sent it to his mother. And then they waited for the thank you notes to arrive. The first son receives this in the mail. Dear son, thank you so much for your thoughtful gift of this beautiful house. But the problem is, I'm just one person. I only live in one room, and it is much too much to clean. The second son received his thank you note. Dear son, thank you for the Mercedes. It's beautiful, but it sits in the garage. Hello, I'm losing my eyesight. How am I supposed to drive this car? The third son receives his thank you note. Dear son, thank you for being the sensitive one. The one that knows what I really wanted. The chicken was delicious. If you're looking for the perfect Mother's Day gift, you might want to put an instruction card with it. Just say it. We find on Mother's Day that we have the opportunity to honor our mothers, those that have taken much time and effort into raising us to be the men and women that we are today. And we love them for it. This is the day that fathers help their children by their example, showing them how to honor the mother that is given and given and given. For every woman in this room that has had children that you have had the joy of being a mother, and may I include those women that are spiritual moms. These are women that come alongside us. They may or may not have some of their own children, but they have been a huge influence in our lives. They have given of their time and their love and their devotion to some of us and helped us to be better women. Could I ask you all to stand? All the mothers across the congregation. Let's show them how much we really love them. We have mothers in this church that we have had with us for a very long time. Some that have gone before us that we've already had to say goodbye to for a little while. But we remember some of you today are in this congregation and you're grieving because your mother's not with you today. Can I just say, the Lord is with you. He knows your heart. This is kind of a tough day for you. You miss her very much. Some dear ones that we've had to say goodbye to. And I honestly believe that the older I get, the more I need my mom. So we thank you. We thank them for all that they did for us, though they are now with the Lord. There are other women in our building today that would like to be a mother. That may have not happened yet, or that just wasn't what God had planned for their life. But you have been a mother. You've come alongside a lot of women. You've been there to have an open home, a ready coffee pot sitting somewhere in the house. And you have opened up your life to other young women that needed a mentor. Can we say thank you? Thank you for doing that, because not everyone has the benefit of having had a godly mother. They needed a new role model, and you were there for them. We often struggle on exactly what it takes to make a happy home. A poet by the name of Wilbur Frost said this: "It's not so hard to be a mother. Becoming one is not difficult, but actually being one, that's very difficult. There are times when as a mother you have to make tough decisions. You need to make hard decisions that aren't popular in your home. And there are moments where being a mom is the hardest job around. And it never ends. I had the benefit of getting to do both, being a mom and being a working mom. And can I just say, many days it was much easier to go to work, where you could actually start a project and finish a project. Oh, the joy of seeing something done and not undone before you went to bed that night. But as women of the Lord, we are often called to wear many different hats and also wear many different kinds of dresses. There's a popular article that was in the Wall Street Journal last year. And it was a dad, I'll say a well-meaning dad, that was trying to help de-stress his wife. God bless him. So he decided that he would make a flow chart, something that would kind of help the ebb and flow in the home work a little better. And this is what he came up with. The mother would be the CEO. This is the Chief Executive Officer. Things would happen and she would get things done, but of course she also had to wear the title of Director of Transportation, because that's what we do from the time they're born till they get their license. The father would become the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. And in his home, all things money would flow through that. But of course, he also had the added advantage of being the bedtime manager. Because how many of you moms know sometimes it takes a dad to keep them in bed? The teenage daughter would become the manager of social media. How many of you have a teenage daughter? I should hear a lot of amens on this one. All things media are going to flow through the kids. If you need to know something, go ask one of your teenagers. The boys are the directors of gaming. They're very good at it too. We all have quite a lot of paraphernalia that has come through those stages of life. And then we have the toddlers and babies, not to be excluded. They're in charge of the night shift. And they are good at their job. It was going to help us all to understand, okay, this is what's expected of you. This is what you do in the house. This flow chart would help a home become a happy home. Maybe. Possibly it's good to understand our rules. But what we often find in a home is whosever hands are free, just get it done. It doesn't take a title, it just takes a willing heart. Just finish the task. But there's another way we can find a happy home. It's by the decisions we make and the choices we make every day. As mothers and as fathers, it takes some godly decisions, one by one, brick by brick, we build happy homes. Proverbs 14:1 says, "A wise woman builds her home, but a foolish one tears it down with her own hands." How does that happen? Wise means skillful. She's had to acquire some of these skills, some ways to help keep things flowing, and things don't tend to flow so easily. A foolish woman tears it down. The Hebrew definition of this is something that happens piece by piece, little by little, pulls it apart. How does that happen? Decision by decision, thing by thing, choice by choice. This is how our homes fall apart. God said, "I will give you all that you need. I will equip you with all that you need to do what I have called you to do." But here's the key. We have to do it His way. Today we're going to visit a family that's about to have a wedding. Now this is close to my heart because me too. My oldest son is getting married, and Zach, it's about time. I'm not getting any younger. I don't have any grandchildren. But here we go. We have a very popular show on TV called Say Yes to the Dress. Katie and I have been watching this relentlessly. It's a little dramatic, but it's made for TV. This show is all about a bride trying to choose the perfect dress. This is her moment. This is the time that she has to be at her best. So she goes off to the store to buy the dress. She takes with her her mom, her grandma, her Aunt Susie, all of her bridesmaids with all of their opinions, a couple neighbors, I don't know, a dog and a cat. It just seems like it just goes on forever. And they all go off to the store and they give her their opinion about what the perfect dress is. How many of you mothers have ever been given opinions about what the perfect mom looks like? How's that working for you? Sometimes we get a few opinions in there that are helpful and a whole lot of opinions in there that don't help at all. But in this show, at the end of the show, and it always is resolved, that at the end, she finds the dress that is perfect for her. And most of the time, everyone agrees. Today we're going to visit another family that's trying to find the exact dress that's right for this bride. Watch with me as we watch them play out, saying yes to the dress.
Ashley, stop. You're gonna rip my arm out of its socket. What's the rush anyways?
I need to show you something before my mom comes back. See?
What? All I see are dresses.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
Dresses. My mom's dresses.
I still don't get it.
She wants me to wear her wedding dress.
Oh, but that's kind of sweet.
What, are you crazy? That's not sweet. It's horrible.
How is that horrible? She knows you like vintage.
She got married in the 80s.
Yeah?
Have you seen any dresses from the 80s? Ruffles. Lots of hideous ruffles. Huge puffy sleeves, flouncy collars.
Can't you just say no?
Break her heart? I mean, I tried to get out of it by saying I might go non-traditional, wear something other than white.
And she brought out all of these dresses. That is great.
Every dress from every dance she went to in high school and college, and every wedding she was a bridesmaid for. I'm glad you think this is so amusing. I'm doomed.
Calm down, it'll all work out. What do you need me to do?
I don't know, but don't you dare like any of them.
Hello, Brittany. I didn't hear you come in. How's the maid of honor?
I'm good, Mrs. G. What's that?
Oh, I thought we could eat cookies while Ashley gives us a fashion show.
Oh, sounds great. I love your cookies.
So, which one is first?
I don't know.
What if we tried this one?
That dress is for my high school senior prom. John Steiner. Boy, was he cute.
Ooh, Mrs. Gordon?
I thought you meant Dad in high school.
Oh, I knew Dad in high school, but we didn't date until after college.
So who was this John guy?
He was the lead in all of the school plays. He could sing, he could dance, he could act. All the girls in my class had a crush on him.
But he asked you to prom.
No, I asked him.
Really?
You never told me that.
I thought I was in love.
Well, what changed your mind?
Well, he was beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, not so much. I had to call Grandpa to come get me from prom.
Yikes.
Yeah, you know, my mom always told me, handsome is as handsome does. Prom taught me that lesson the hard way. Well, that dress is awful. Which one's next, Brittany?
I choose this one.
Making choices is all about what dress to wear. It's a little broader than the actual clothes that we wear. It's about what we want to happen in our lives, how we want things to go, choice by choice, brick by brick, line by line. She saw someone in high school that looked amazing, but yet the heart wasn't right. Pretty perceptive for a young girl in high school. As mothers, we are often called upon to make different kinds of choices. Things that don't always appear to be the right choice, but you know in your heart, this is the way. There's a verse in Isaiah 30:21, one of my favorites, and it rhymes in the Living Bible, so that's why I quote it from there. If you leave God's path and go astray, you will hear a voice behind you say, "No, this is the way. Walk here." The voice is godly discernment. The dress to choose is godly discernment and wisdom. There's a place in our lives where each of us are going to be called upon as mothers to have some discernment about what's really needed at that moment. We find in the book of Ruth another young woman that had to make a difficult choice. As she was coming into a family that she didn't have any knowledge of their God nor of their family, she found herself with a very hard place to walk. You see, her mother-in-law Naomi had moved away from their homeland in Bethlehem, moved into the land of Moab because there was a famine in the land. With her, her husband, and their 2 sons, they packed up and went to where the food was. There, they met young women and married them. One of these women's name was Ruth. Over the course of the next 10 years, her husband, Naomi's husband, died, and then both sons died. In those days, a woman without a husband had no way of taking care of herself. She couldn't own any real estate. She couldn't have the inheritance that went to the family. She was truly destitute. So now we have Naomi with Ruth and her other daughter-in-law trying to figure out what life is going to look like. They find out that now there is food in their homeland, and Naomi, in bitterness of heart, says, I'm going home. You girls need to go back to your homeland wherever you came from because I have nothing for you. That would seem to be the logical thing to do. And one daughter-in-law chose to do that, but not Ruth. She thought about this. Must have been a difficult decision. No way of taking care of them. No husband to redeem their inheritance, going back to the land that she had never lived in. But she chose to stay with her mother-in-law, who over the 10 years of marriage she had grown to love, and she had also grown to love the God of her mother-in-law. This doesn't seem like a wise decision. Why would you make a decision like this? Because God had a different plan for Ruth's life, and what seemed to be wise was not. In this case, Ruth needed to stay with her mother-in-law, because what she did not know, and would eventually occur, she would meet and marry a kinsman of the family who would redeem the family inheritance, and one day, much later, she would become the great-grandmother of King David. Wise decision. The dress of godly wisdom and discernment is a very good dress to wear. We are often called upon to give a choice to our children and help them to sort of steer them in the right direction. When they're young, we make choices for them. As we raise them, we hope that they will learn to make wise choices themselves. I believe in show and tell parenting. Tell them, but show them by your own active obedience to what God has done in your life, how to make and seek godly wisdom and discernment. Ruth did this. I think of the many women in our church, and many of them have poured into my life, which I thank God for. But the one that comes to mind first is Faye Davis. If you've ever had the opportunity to go talk to Faye, you're going to receive some godly wisdom. She's measured in her words. She has experience. She's lived her life, raised her children, and she knows where you're coming from. And she has such an encouraging word. We have others in this church, many of them. The gift of godly wisdom is something that you and I can ask for. We can ask the Lord, Lord, fill us with what we need to know. Did you ever have that moment when something just wasn't quite right with one of your kids? You knew it. You couldn't exactly lay your hand on it, but something wasn't quite right. Do you know at that moment you can ask the Lord, give me some discernment. What do I need to know here? How do I need to lean in? Which way do I need to go? The dress of godly wisdom and discernment. This is a dress to say yes to.
That dress for me. She's had a lot of my clothes, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, so we didn't shop for clothes very much. But you know what? She was such an awesome seamstress. I didn't feel like I was out of style.
This lace is beautiful.
Yeah, she spent a lot of time on that dress.
You're pretty bossy to nail yourself, Mrs. Reed.
Thanks, Brittany.
Well, I guess it runs in the family.
This dress is pretty, but...
Next.
Here you go. Try this one.
every once in a while, there are people that have unique giftings, as in this place, a grandmother that hand-sewed beads on this dress. Probably at a time when maybe going to the store to buy a dress wasn't an option. How many of you have been there? We sometimes take the very gift that God gave us and downplay it. We don't recognize that God has given you that gift for that reason, for that season, to bless your family, to bless your friends, to bless your neighbors. Like the grandmother that sewed the beads on the dresses, how would she know that the daughter would keep the dress and Mrs. G would hand it over to her child someday and say, your grandmother made this? Whether or not she ever wears it, I would say there's something special about that dress because it represents a unique gifting that the mother and the grandmother possessed. We find that the Bible is full of things that help us know that there are many different ways for people to be blessed by our giftings. But sometimes you and I fail to embrace the gift. Well, I don't have her gift. I don't do that like she does it. How am I going to be used for God if I can't do it like she does it? And I find all across the board women, week after week after week, struggling with feeling capable in their own unique giftings because it doesn't match someone else's. We find this in Proverbs 31, and yes, she's going to go there. The 31st chapter of Proverbs has long been that one passage that as women, we kind of like to avoid. Can we just not have a sermon on that passage because Lord knows we have enough guilt in our lives. And yet, if you've ever read the passage, you see the full picture of not one woman, but as a composite portrait of all things that a woman could do and is capable of, embodied in one story. And if you read through the passage of the 31st chapter of Proverbs, you see a woman who is gifted. She buys and purchases real estate. She runs her entire household, and all the purchasing goes through her. This is kind of a big deal in Bible days to even give credence to this, but it's in God's holy word. She manages her household well. She has servants. They need to be taken care of. She cooks, she sews, she has time to give to charity. She knows what she's doing and she does it really well. And can I add that not one time in this passage is her appearance mentioned? Not one. Her clothes, yes. Her appearance, no. This is a godly woman. Now, instead of avoiding this passage because none of us are going to measure up to that, try this. Pick one. One gift. One thing that you're passionate about. One thing that you do well. Perhaps you're a little tentative about it because maybe no one else has recognized that yet. Then we know that God has given you a gift and it just hasn't fully developed, but you know it because this is the thing that would get you out of bed in the morning. This is the thing that drives you to want to give of yourself. That gift is your unique gifting, and it is God-given. You're there with that gift to bless your family, to bless your home, but to bless those around you, to use in and outside of the church setting. Can I just say that the dress of unique giftings is one that we sorely need to see come to full maturity in the church. If you're a writer, write for God. If you have the personality of a greeter, we could use some greeters that would just make every visitor feel welcomed. If you're a person that knows how to manage, help manage your home. Come alongside your husband and do that. And husbands, if your wife has a gift, use that gift. You, her encourager, may be the key to her really developing in that gift. I can honestly tell you today, I would not be here if it weren't for the support of my husband. A gifting needs to be encouraged and nurtured. And women, we need you to step up. We need you to find the thing that makes you want to get out of bed every day and the thing that you can invest in and use that gift to bless your homes and bless your church. We have many gifted women in this body. Gifts that I love, cherish, and at times have repented for it and envied. But I think of people like Gloria Carroll, who very, very passionately observes the First for Life ministry in this church and gives her heart to it. Today, she's selling carnations that go to the Allen County Right for Life. You can purchase one for $1. It's a donation. But she gives tirelessly. That's not her job. That's her passion. We have other women in the church that just give and give and give of themselves. But one woman in particular came to mind when I was thinking about this, and her name is Sue Kern. I had the advantage of speaking with her the other day at a daycare event that Jan Romy was doing for the daycare that we run here. And Sue works in this daycare. She doesn't have to work. She's done a wonderful job of living her life well, but she chooses to come to work and help assist every single teacher that works in our daycare. Her job varies. Wherever there's a need, they might pull her into a different class. She goes a different direction. But do you know what she did one day? One day, Sue changed 50 diapers. 50. Do you know why? Because she doesn't have anything else to do? I doubt it. Because she loves the babies. Because she loves the families. Because she serves the families through working here at our daycare. Women, it doesn't matter if your gift doesn't look like the woman sitting on the other side of you. What matters is that the gift that's in your heart, the one that really makes you want to serve, is the one that you practice every day. This is a dress that we have to say yes to, the dress of unique giftings.
Oh my, I thought I had gotten rid of that dress.
Bad luck with that dress?
Yeah, you could say that. I was a bridesmaid in my friend Mary's wedding, and her maid of honor, Barb, had just broken up with her fiancé. Well, she was so upset that she drank too much at the reception. As she was walking out, she fell and broke her ankle. Your dad was there too, so he offered to drive her to the hospital, and I sat in the back seat with her, and she threw up all over me. Ew!
That was disgusting.
Yeah, I spent the whole night in the hospital with the lingering smell of Barb's despair.
There is no way.
So gross.
There was a silver lining, though. Your dad and I started dating after that.
Oh yeah, I think you told me you guys started dating after Mary's wedding, but you didn't tell me how.
You know, he told me later that he was so impressed that I didn't get upset and I didn't get angry, but just stayed with Barb and tried to comfort her. So he asked me out.
And then came Ashley.
Not quite.
Just look at her now.
Haha, very funny. Pick out a dress.
The dress of a gentle, quiet spirit is how Peter writes it. A gentle, quiet spirit. We don't see much of that getting very much press on TV these days. Gentle, quiet spirit, that sounds like a weakling. Somebody that doesn't know how to take charge. Can I tell you, ladies, that the gentle, quiet spirit that he was talking about belonged to Sarah, the mother of all nations. Interesting enough, when we first are introduced to Sarah in Genesis, she doesn't even have a child. And the first thing we learn about her is that she's barren. How's this going to work? She's to be the mother of all nations, and she doesn't even have a child. Not a likely candidate for this word. A gentle, quiet spirit is not exactly what we think of in our term. Gentle takes a lot of strength. There are times in life when you're called upon to be gentle, but strong-minded about it. A gentle word turns away wrath, but it doesn't mean it's any less of an authoritative word. A quiet spirit, that doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. That means you have a quiet confidence in the God whose opinion is the only one that matters. That's a quiet spirit, an undisturbedness about you. There will be times when, as a mother, you will have every reason to be disturbed. Things will be going on, happening in and out of your marriage, in and out of your home, that could be very disturbing. If you didn't have a word from the Lord, that when you met Him in that private time, when you're on your knees, calling out their names before God, He drops a word in your heart and says, I've got this. My hand is on them. My arm is not too short to save. I can do this. give this to me. There are many times when a gentle, quiet spirit looks just like that. It's called a promise from God. It doesn't matter what this looks like. My mind is not paying attention to what my circumstances are. My heart is set on the God over all these circumstances, and I am secure in Christ. We need many women to take on that gentle courage with strength, but that gentle word that says, I have an undisturbed heart. My soul is quieted in me, and I will stay in the place of intercession until the Lord has shown me how his answer is going to play out. This dress is one we have to say yes to.
Just a little too fast around one turn. We wound up in a ditch stuck in the mud.
I don't get why it's so funny.
Well, after he was through getting mad at himself, he was going to get out and push the car, but I wouldn't let him.
Why not?
Because he was the one who had to stand up in front of everybody. I didn't want him to get all wet and muddy. So, after a lot of protest, I got out and pushed the car.
You did not.
I did too. But it wasn't so hard to push, but I wound up falling face first in the mud. And then, when I stood up, I lost my balance and I fell backwards. That dress had maybe 2 spots on it that weren't covered in mud.
You so rock, Mrs. G.
So what did you do? Just drop down off and go home?
Oh, not a chance. I was way too proud of your dad to miss his award, so I cleaned up as best I could and I stood in the back and watched everything. The faces on the people who saw me, though, were priceless.
What?
I don't know what I was thinking.
What? Those were awesome stories.
No, about these dresses. They're horrible. Stories is about all they're good for these days. But mine, not yours.
Well, what does that mean?
You know what? Let's pack all these up and I'll take them to the Salvation Army.
Wait, but not Grandma's dress.
No, not Grandma's dress.
Can I keep this one? I kind of like it.
Sure, but hurry up and get changed. We're leaving.
Where are we going?
To the bridal shop. Your story, your choice.
Your story, your choice. All of you here today have a story. The question is, what choices have you made? We find that women need to wear one more dress, and this more than ever. This is just the dress of grit. There are times in our lives when we have to step up and push the car out of the ditch. Whatever the car looks like might be a messy circumstance in our home. And the mud is what's happening. They're just stuck. But we need to get out and do some pushing. The dress of grit looks like showing up for work, and it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not it's your job. It just needs to be done. We find a story in 1 Samuel about a woman named Abigail. She's beautiful, she's intelligent, but she's married to a very wealthy man that also is a very mean man. And they are having a festival. It's festival time, it's sheep shearing time. Everything was a party in the Old Testament. If there was any reason going on to have any kind of celebration, it involved the entire community every time. And in these sheep shearing festivals, the entire community was involved to come and feast and be part of the party. And Nabal was probably in his element because apparently he liked parties. While they were having their party, David and some of his men were in the land close by, and they did what was very customary those days. He sent a delegation of 10 men to Nabal's home and said, "Greetings in the name of the Lord. Could we ask to share in the festivities? And would you be so kind as to bring some supplies of the party with my men back to our camp. This was very traditional. It was done all the time. It was considered a hospitality of the day. But Nabal, not being very wise, because his name means foolish, said no. He didn't only say no, he insulted them. Who are you? Why should I help you? This has nothing to do with me. You could just be a runaway slave asking me for something. I want nothing to do with this, and sent them packing. This was a huge disgrace because hospitality was a big deal in the Bible. When his 10 men arrived back and said, he won't have anything to do with us, David got ready for war. That's how big of a deal that was. But the servants in Nabal's house, seems to me, have been here before because they knew just what to do. They went to find Abigail. Mistress, you've got to do something. We are in grave danger here. David sent 10 of his men to come to share in these festivities with us. And Nabal sent them away with nothing and insulted them. And when we were in David's land, he protected us. He protected our sheep. He protected our men. We owe this man, and now we are going to lose our lives if something doesn't get done. Somebody had to step in and do something. In this case, it was a woman. Abigail was a smart woman. She was an intelligent woman, and she also knew who David was. He was not yet king, but she saw it coming. She goes into the supply closet and gets absolutely everything that he had requested. 5 dressed sheep, barrels of wine, fig cakes, raisin cakes, barley, grain. She packed up the mules and she went towards his camp. This is not a customary thing for a woman to do, to run to the battle. Not with a weapon, with supplies. And then she did another very wise and intelligent thing. As she entered into David's camp, she bowed down in humility, walked up to him and said these words, "On me. Let this sin be on me. Please accept this gift from my hand, and let it make a difference in what you are about to do. It would not be good for the future king to have this on his conscience, that he had done this evil deed because he had been so insulted by this man." This was a woman with some grit. Have you ever needed to run into a situation that you didn't feel equipped to handle? Do you have teenagers? Did you ever need to show up for work when you're pretty sure that you weren't the one for the job? But something needed to be done. Somebody was going to have to step up. And God said, you do it. You do it. I've equipped you to do it. Women, we need some godly women who will show up for work, who have the grit to get the job done when the job needs to get done. And alongside their husband, serve the Lord well from the talent and the God-given gifts that he has given you. We need some women with some courage. And you know what the definition of courage is? Fear that setteth prayers. We need some praying women that know how to show up for work. Not because you feel that you're the most qualified woman, not because the gifts just flow and ooze out of you, but because you know who you are in Christ. And you have taught your family to know who they are in Christ. And we like to say it this way. It's not that they know who they are, it's that they know whose they are. Women with grit, women with courage, women that don't take a back seat because God's given you the burden, you the passion, you the dream. You have the vision to do this. And he says, go. Godly wisdom and discernment. Unique giftings. A gentle and a quiet spirit. And just the dress of grit. You know what the good news is? You don't have to pick which dress to wear. You can have them all. Every one of them. Every one of them are available for the woman that would just cry out to God for that gift needed at that time. As the worship team comes back, I would like to end the service this way. There may be some of you here today that you are interested in what's been done, how the skit has displayed the different choices that we go through. But the truth is, you don't know the Lord. You've never asked Christ into your heart. You didn't know you needed to. Or maybe you've had opportunity to in the past and you just thought, I don't need that. I can do this myself. But today, sitting in this service, you find that you do need it. You need Christ to come into your life. Can I tell you, today can be the difference between now and the rest of your life in having those gifts evident in your home. Today. And it starts with this one choice. Choose. Choose to ask Jesus into your heart. If that's you, then I want you to come and meet me down here in the front. Because if you've never asked Christ into your life, it's so simple. You just open up your heart. You pray the prayer, the sinner's prayer, believing in Jesus as the Son of God, asking Him to forgive you of your sins, and it is done. But that one choice changes everything. Because now you have the God of all the dresses living inside of you. There are other women today. You're here today and you have battled through some things. There's been some hard places for you to walk. You're either battling through some tough places in your marriage or a marriage past that's left a lot of scars. Perhaps it's children. You don't know the wisdom is there for you. You're not sure how to lead in this particular place. Maybe it's finances. There just isn't enough. And how are you going to meet the needs when you don't know what to do with the things that you have in your hand? Maybe it's your job. Maybe there's a place where you're not really getting the credit you deserve, and you really need that job. As the worship team is playing, I'd like to ask the elders and the prayer team to just come forward and just line up here. And I want to give you this challenge. If you would like a different life, you need to step up. Here's the first step in being a woman that chooses the right dress. You get out of your seat, you go forward, and you acknowledge your need of God in any of those areas. And you say, Lord, I need you. I need to meet you. I need to have you in my life. I need you to help me with these children, with this job, with this ministry, with these finances. I cannot do this without you. And who would want to? But it takes that first step of grit to say, enough. Enough. Enough of me doing this on my own. Enough of me trying to make this happen without the help of the Lord. Stand with me, church. We often ask in the church for people to bow their heads and close their eyes, but Pastor Ron has changed that of late. We think if we're making a decision for Christ, we should just make that decision for Christ. So here's your first step of courage. If you need prayer for any of those reasons, while Bob sings this song, I just want you to come. Just come. Just like you are. That's how God's going to receive you and I, just like we are. Nothing changed until you step out and make the change. Just come.